Here are 8 of the scariest lakes on the planet. Lake Nyos, Cameroon. Volcanic lakes all have a certain level of danger associated with them, but none more than Lake Nyos in Cameroon, which holds the record of causing the most deaths by a lake in a short period of time. In fact, in 1986, it is thought that this lake was responsible for killing every living thing within a 15-mile radius. This included 1,700 people and even more animals, and has left the area highly contaminated. From one moment to the next, everything just dropped dead. The reason for this incident, and another one that happened at a nearby lake 2 years before, is thought to be because of the way the lakes were formed in the first place. They were created as a result of a volcanic eruption about 500 years ago that left holes in the landscape that would subsequently be filled with water which would dissolve vast quantities of carbon dioxide deep down. More volcanic activity in the region released more carbon dioxide that was dissolved by groundwater, which fed into the lake and further increased the amount that was stored there. This process happens in most volcanic lakes of the world, but usually the water flows around and the gases are released slowly. For some reason, this process doesn't happen at Lake Nyos. Unfortunately, no one's quite sure what triggered the release of gas, so it's proving difficult to make sure nothing like this ever happens again. In the early 2000s, tests showed that carbon dioxide was once again building up. The government teamed up with scientists to help release the pressure, but it's quite possible that a similar event can happen again anytime soon. Laguna Colorada, Chile. Located in southwest Bolivia on the border with Chile, this blood-red lake is caused by red sediments and algae in the water. It's all covered in natural formations of salts that are used to make washing detergents, and home to the huge number of Andean flamingos, the rarest species of flamingo in the world. It is also said that it may have inspired Salvador Dalí himself, as it is also known as Dalí Valley. Boiling Lake, Dominica. Within the lush forests of Dominica, about a 3-hour hike from the nearby village of Laudat, is one of the most dangerous lakes in the world. Known as the Boiling Lake, it's about 200 feet across, which makes it the second largest boiling lake in the world. It was first noted in the expedition diary of 2 English explorers in 1870, which led to a scientific mission to take measurements. How hot was it? While they found the outer water to range in temperature between 180 to 197 degrees Fahrenheit, it proved to be utterly impossible to measure the temperature of the areas where the lake was actively boiling. At the time, the lake was measured to be about 195 feet deep, but over the years, this has changed drastically. In 1988, the lake stopped boiling altogether, although it has since returned to the same state as when it was first discovered. Today, the depth is unknown, and the temperatures are equally difficult to measure. It's thought to be a flooded fumarole, which is a crack that allows gases to escape from molten lava that lies below. As the water that is collected in the basin from rainfall seeps down, it makes contact with the lava and boils. This whole process obviously makes it treacherous to any living thing that enters the water, something that is made more likely by the extreme steep and slippery slopes that surround it. For this reason, numerous people and animals have disappeared in the area, never to be seen again. Everyone's guess is that they may have fallen into the boiling water. Recently, the government has even banned visitors from the lake to prevent any further deaths. Besides falling into the boiling water, the waters are also starting to cool again, and large amounts of deadly gases like carbon monoxide are also present in the area. Pyramid Lake, Nevada. Pyramid Lake is one of the most famous lakes in the world. The lake was supposedly once home to a family of mermaids. One of them fell in love with a local villager, but upon her introduction to the village as his future wife, the reaction was less than welcoming. She was banished to the lake, never to return. Heartbroken as she was, she cursed the lake with the guarantee that anyone who lived there would suffer, and by all accounts, that legend seems to have come true. Located about 40 miles away from Reno, it's an ancient place that was once part of a larger lake that covered most of northwestern Nevada. The name Pyramid Lake was given because of the various limestone formations that extend from the water's surface, resembling structures from a long-lost civilization. Humans have lived in the area a long time, with the native Paiute tribe living on the shores until settlers began to take the land from them. The violence that ensued made this a dangerous place in the 1860s and only helped to further the legends of the place that had existed for centuries. The battles between the native tribes and settlers resulted in countless deaths, and the lake is renowned for a larger than usual number of fishermen fatalities. Plus, the mysterious disappearance of swimmers and scuba divers in the area who are never to be found again. Pitch Lake, Trinidad. When you think of Trinidad, you probably think of a beautiful Caribbean island, which is true, but there's the lake near the village of La Brea that couldn't be further from the truth. It is the largest pitch lake in the world, meaning that it is made from liquid asphalt. It's about 100 acres in size and 76 meters deep at its deepest spot. It was formed thousands of years ago when tectonic activity caused oil to rise through cracks to the surface. Over time, the lighter elements from the oil have evaporated to leave the mix of oil, clay, and water. The tar from here was used to help pave places like New York City and London and has been exported to over 50 different countries. Despite the clear benefit for the country, Pitch Lake is an extremely dangerous place, with many people having lost their lives due to the fumes and potential for sinking into the asphalt. It also reveals secrets of times gone by, with remains of prehistoric creatures often emerging, such as a giant sloth and a mastodon's tooth. Crater Lake, Oregon. Oregon is a state with plenty of volcanic activity, and at Crater Lake you can see the effects of this close up. These clouds would attract mystified spectators to the region with speculations of magic or alien activity. Later on, it was discovered that hydrothermal vents at the bottom of the lake could explain the phenomenon. There are a few legends about this lake that bring even more visitors. The lake has been witness to countless accidental deaths, suicides, and murders, both in the waters and the surrounding areas. Not all of the remains have been found, so quite often a visitor might trip on a collection of bones, further adding to the spookiness of the place. One story features a World War II pilot who crashed in the park after the end of the war. His skull was found more than 30 years later by a ranger who had gotten lost in the woods. Crater Lake is also a UFO sighting hotspot, with a report from 1997 detailing a number of witnesses who saw 3 flying discs in the sky accompanied by a sonic boom that set off car alarms in the area. Sightings of Bigfoot are common here too, and the Klamath people native to the region believe the lake to be the sacred crossroads between the over and underworlds. Roopkund, India. Roopkund in India might actually be the creepiest lake in the world. It was discovered in 1942 by a British forest guard who made a troubling find. This lake, 16,000 feet above sea level and at the base of a small valley, was completely frozen. The ice, though, was completely full of human skeletons. As summer approached, the ice began to melt and revealed even more skeletons, simply floating around in the water. The immediate assumption was that these were the remains of Japanese troops that had tried to sneak across the mountains, but they soon realized that these skeletons were far older than that. In fact, it turned out that the estimated 200 bodies were about 1,200 years old. Further investigation revealed that they were from 2 distinct groups, one that was related and the other that seemed to be shorter, perhaps local guides. What was unusual was that they had all died in a similar way, blows to the head from round-shaped objects. It soon became clear that they had all died as a result of a sudden and severe hailstorm. With nowhere to hide from the 9-inch circumference stones, everyone was soon killed by the thousands that rained down upon them. Lake Tinn, Norway. On the face of it, Lake Tinn in Norway is no different to any other. It's one of the largest and deepest lakes in Europe, situated between the towns of Tinn and Notodden, but this lake hides plenty of secrets because of its use during the Second World War by the Nazis' secret war effort. In fact, one of the most important and daring Allied operations of the war happened on this lake, and deep beneath its waters lie the deadly remains of what happened here. The story begins in Vemork, a hydroelectric plant just outside of the nearby city of Rjukan. Opened in 1911, it was originally intended to fix nitrogen for the production of fertilizer, but during the war, the Nazis had other ideas. They converted the site into a production facility for heavy water, the first site in the world dedicated to its mass production. Heavy water, also known as deuterium oxide, was one of the crucial ingredients to early nuclear energy research, and the Nazis were producing huge amounts of it to allow them to develop their own nuclear weapons. This would have turned the tide of the war in their favor. The Allies tried repeatedly to destroy the plant, but their efforts proved unsuccessful. In a last-ditch attempt, they planted a time bomb on a ferry, Hydro, which was carrying barrels of heavy water across Lake Thyn to be transported on to Germany. On February 20, 1944, the bomb detonated as the ferry was above the deepest part of the lake, and the Nazis' whole supply of heavy water was lost, along with any hope they had of developing nuclear weapons. While the mission was declared a success, no one knew for sure that heavy water was actually on board the ferry. So in 2005, a remotely operated vehicle was sent to the depths of the lake, over 1,300 feet below, to search for the wreckage. For had these reached their destination, things might have ended very differently. Nowadays, Hitler's sunken secret is a well-known story in the area, but with the potential for heavy water to be leaking from the remaining sunken barrels into the lake, and many other wartime secrets sure to be lost there too. Thanks for watching!